Okay, awesome. Let's get started. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the U at UCalgary event, and thank you for coming. My name is Noel Tindito, and I am a second-year bioinformatics major in the BHSC program. I'm joined here by Carolyn, who is a third-year Health and Society major, and AJ, who is a third-year biomedical sciences major. I'd also like to introduce Jennifer Logan, who is our program coordinator, and Darwat Skyke, who is our program engagement specialist. So before we get started, I would appreciate it if everyone could keep their mics muted for the duration of the presentation, and feel free to type any questions you have in the chat box. We will answer them towards the end of the presentation. Now I will pass it on to Carolyn to do the land acknowledgement.
Thank you so much, Noel. So right now we're going to perform a land acknowledgement. So today we would like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, which includes the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. The City of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. It should also be noted that the University of Calgary is situated on land adjacent to where the Bow River meets Elbow River, and that's the traditional Blackfoot name for this place is Mohkinstsis, which means elbow, and which we now call the City of Calgary.
Right, so we thought we'd start off with a poll for everyone who is here today. So yeah, just let us know how you are feeling about starting university with the letters you have there, so whether you're excited, nervous, or something else, and we'll give you about a minute to answer that. All right, so yeah, just looking at the chat, it's good to see a lot of people are excited, eager, so it's really nice to see. If you're nervous or uncertain, that's totally understandable, and hopefully we'll address some of those things that are making you maybe more nervous during this presentation.
Awesome, glad to hear you all are excited to start university. So I'm gonna go on to the next slide here. AJ, thank you for the poll. So AJ, Carolyn, and I are all going to talk to you about some of our experiences in the BHSC program and our journey over the past few years. We will then conclude with a roundtable discussion on different topics, including more polling questions, and do a little question and answer period. So we hope you can all join. And yeah, let's get started. So myself, my name is Noel. I'm a second-year bioinformatics major. And my first year experience was actually entirely online. So I never really got to experience the social aspect of things, which at times made my first year experience quite difficult since I didn't have as much access to a support network. So all of you, however, will be entering your first year in person. So you will get the opportunity to form those connections, especially since you're in BHSC. And usually most students do end up forming a tight-knit group of friends within the program since a lot of us are very like-minded. I would say that my first year was quite difficult because there is quite a bit of a transition period when going from high school to university. And there was a little bit of a learning curve when trying to learn how to balance different university expectations, try to volunteer, work at the same time, learn how to prioritize my responsibilities. And of course, as a bioinformatics major, I had to learn how to code. So getting through that in my first year was quite difficult. And because of that, I basically had my laptop in front of me the entire time, wasn't able to reach out to people as much as I could have. But overall, I thought the first year of my university experience was quite challenging, but also quite rewarding and kind of equipped me with the strength, knowledge, and skill set like the capacity I basically needed to excel in bioinformatics. So this is a picture of some random person coding. Not really me, but basically what I was doing. And the picture on the right is kind of me with some of my friends, just showing that you can still socialize in your first year, even if it is quite a bit difficult. So oftentimes people actually go into bioinformatics thinking that the only thing you can do in your spare time is study. And I'm not going to lie, you definitely have to put in the work in BHSC, as is with every degree, but you still get the chance to hang out, meet like-minded people, and pursue things on the side that you're passionate about. And I would say the BHSC program in specific has helped me with pursuing research, volunteering, and connecting with other students in the program. And I think a big part of BHSC is like the supplementary application. And so through that process, they do a really good job of finding students that mesh well together. Overall, I think I found that first year and second year were kind of the most challenging for me in BHSC so far, but you did find the time to socialize with a lot of friends, and I did get the chance to make quite a good support network. And I don't know, it's always just like such a good way. It's so easy to de-stress in BHSC because you can talk to people, you have those resources available to you, and you have a support network in your availability or your access. So this is a picture of me volunteering on the left. So I'm joining a Zoom call here because my first year was mostly online. This is a picture of something related to bioinformatics because most of my research in first year and most of the work that I did was more so related to bioinformatics. And the picture on the right is me with a few friends in front of the awkward Rex statue on main campus. So even outside of research and academia, I've been lucky enough to participate in different social events and pursue some of my interests and passions through clubs and other initiatives. So one of these is the Health Sciences Students Association Gala that happens every single year. I'm actually an executive on this team, and it's just a good way to hang out with and socialize with your BHSC friends outside of the program and outside of school. So that's definitely a highlight of joining the BHSC program. It was a lot of fun. We had people performing a talent show, we had an awards night, and we also had a ton of food and opportunity to hang out with our friends during that event. I also think like a big part of university and a big part of being an undergraduate is being able to embrace new opportunities and experiences and to kind of not shy away from them. So ever since I joined university, I've gotten the chance to kind of step outside my comfort zone, remove my shell, and form good connections while making change and in things that I'm kind of like positive about. So the picture on the right here is of a club I'm a part of, and we recently won a club award. So that was really nice to see, and I was able to pursue my passions in that way. And so you'll get to experience a lot of those opportunities once you come to university and the BHSC program. So I would say that adapting to school online for a long time and keeping positive using social media was like kind of difficult to do at times. But I think that when you're in the BHSC program, if you form a good and positive support network with like-minded individuals, they can keep you on your feet and ensure that you are doing okay. And it's important to know that at times university can be challenging, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel and your hard work will pay off. So just make sure you make a good group of friends and embrace those challenges. And I'd also just like to point out my amazing meme on the left side here. When somebody asked me what is bioinformatics, I really hope none of you asked me that question today. I'll pass it on to Carolyn.
Thank you so much, Noelle, for that awesome introduction. So yeah, I'm Carolyn. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a third year HSOC major. I'm doing my concentration in sociology. So for any HSOCs here, you will have to declare a concentration after your first year. I chose sociology for mine, and I'm additionally pursuing a minor in international Indigenous studies. And honestly, I have to concur with everything that Noelle said about getting involved. And I included this picture because I think that it's a really great representation of something that I've done to get involved, to really channel my interests. When you come to university, there really you'll hear this a lot, but there's really something for everybody. And it is truly an opportunity to take the time to find out what you're passionate about and get involved in the things that really make you happy, even outside of school. And there really is an opportunity to do that for everybody. Even if it doesn't exist, there's probably other people on campus who have a similar idea as you and are excited to make it happen. So this is a picture of me from the annual Sustainable Development Goals Summit, which is a part of the Sustainable Development Goals Alliance, which I am the co-chair of. And honestly, I didn't even really realize my passion for sustainability until my first year of university. I kind of had all these interests that aligned with it. And then the world of sustainability just kind of enveloped me as encompassing all of those things. And so I was able to get involved with the SDGA and subsequently leading planning for the SDG Summit this past year, which was a super, super cool event. And I'm extremely grateful for all the opportunities that it's given me. But I guess the takeaway from this is that it's okay to take some time to try out a lot of different things to see what you're passionate about and really try and get involved, because there's going to be opportunities that you don't even know exist really until you get in them. What you think that you might be doing now, 2 years from now, is probably going to be completely different from what you're actually doing. So that's my encouragement regarding that. The next slide, please. Just kind of going over my first year. So I remember my first year, I was really, I would say like overwhelmed. Like I was a little bit, I was very similar. I was excited, but I was definitely very nervous. And I felt that those nerves felt a bit overwhelming at times where I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I didn't know a ton of people. I didn't feel like I knew a ton of people in the program. I wasn't sure really how to get myself out there. And honestly, it really honestly came from you at UCalgary and orientation that I met people that I eventually, ended up forming my friend groups with at social groups. And actually, I included this picture from first year, like residents trick-or-treating. We dressed up as the little aliens from what do you call it, Toy Story. I don't know if you could tell from this, but actually what's really interesting about this picture is that the girl on the bottom right is actually my roommate now, and we met during orientation, and that's literally the only reason that we started talking and became friends. And there are a couple other girls in here who I met during UCalgary that our friendship was then kind of solidified at orientation. When we saw each other, we're like, oh my gosh, I ran into you at UCalgary. So really just reaching out to people, like you have nothing to lose by just saying hi to people, and you're not going to mesh with everybody. That's just a fact of life. But really trying to find your group. It's okay if it doesn't happen right away. It's totally fine. But reaching out to people can really help make that transition a little bit easier. I remember it being less scary to approach lab materials and writing styles that I'd never seen before, when other people around me were also expressing some of the same anxieties, and we were able to support each other through that. Next slide, please. The shift to online for me was definitely, I will say, stressful, just like everybody else. It was confusing. I didn't really know what was going to happen really with my degree. I feel like I had this idea of what my second year was going to look like, and then it was just completely shifted, which is like that for everybody really. But I definitely was able to take the opportunity to try and expand my, I will say, breadth of abilities academically. So I was able to travel to Victoria and do some school from there. So I was able to get involved in a lot of unique volunteer experiences, like the COVID-19 support initiative. Honestly, the pandemic gave me a lot of time to reflect on areas that I'm passionate about, and even like me and one of my friends was actually able to start an organization during that time, a national nonprofit targeting adolescent sexual violence. Honestly, just because of the space we had to just talk to one another and do school together, I completely attest that organization to existing because of the opportunities that COVID ended up giving us. Next slide, please. And my third year has been, of course, still hybrid, but we've been able to kind of make this transition to in-person stuff again. So as Noelle showed pictures of, this is the BHSC Gala from this past year, and these are all HSOCs from my year cohort. And it's been, yeah, again, I'm feeling kind of similar to first year in the sense where it's like getting involved in in-person stuff, but yeah, it's been super, super fulfilling to be able to transition back to in-person examples of all the extracurriculars and stuff that I've been doing with my life over COVID. And stuff like the gala is something that was super, super awesome to just connect with peers, have a ton of fun, eat a lot of food. It was really great. Thank you.
All right, so to introduce myself, I'm AJ. I'm a third year biomedical science major. And to start off, this picture here is of me during first year during orientation week. For a bit of a backstory on this picture, it's not my favorite picture of myself ever, but it did actually end up being one of the pictures on the my UCalgary homepage for about 2 years. So yeah, maybe just word of warning, if you do see cameras at orientation, you know, that moment might be immortalized for 2 years, which wasn't great. But aside from that situation, orientation was a really great opportunity for me to start to meet other health science students. I'm not sure if this is a common experience for everyone or if I just got lucky, but I ended up staying pretty good friends with most of the people I met in my orientation group. But this isn't to say, if you don't meet someone in your orientation group, there are lots of opportunities throughout the program to meet like-minded students. For example, one of the first classes you'll take, MedSci 203, has a full-term group project. And that group, at least for me, turned out to be a really strong support system for navigating our first few months of university, which is a major transition. So, for many students, this might be your first time living away from home. You might be very far away from home. On top of all of that, you're taking university level classes for the first time, which are structured very differently from the kinds of secondary school classes that you're probably used to. So it does get very stressful at times, but that stress becomes a lot more manageable when you're not alone with it. So on that note, connecting with other students became or did come a lot more naturally in person, but became a little more difficult once COVID happened. So like Carolyn, the latter part of my first year and the entirety of my second year was online. And there were obviously many reasons why this wasn't great. But to take away at least one positive, I found that it really forced me to put myself out there a bit more, to get to know others, or to find opportunities to get involved on campus or get involved in research. So during my first year, I was really reluctant to seek out those opportunities for extracurricular involvement. I did, want to be more involved in campus, but at that point, it's very overwhelming. So yeah, after a few uncomfortable first steps, which involved putting myself out there, which again I think was a bit easier given the online circumstances, I did manage to get pretty involved on campus. So if you could go to the next slide. Right, so to summarize what that looked like for me, the first thing I did was join a few clubs and organizations. So that's the picture on the left and then the top middle picture. So those clubs and organizations mostly involve tutoring, which is something I really enjoy. So that's been really kind of fun and rewarding to do outside of classes. So I guess for almost 2 years now, I've been working with these different clubs to tutor students in Calgary, mostly who've had their education impacted by the pandemic. And for whatever reason, might not have the same access to academic supports as their peers to keep them on track. So again, very rewarding, and I'm really glad I got the opportunity to get involved in some of those organizations. Another, I guess, on-campus thing I've been involved with is some sustainability initiatives. So on the right, that's a picture in the U of C's Office of Sustainability. So I've been working on a project to kind of make the U of C more of a bee campus or more pollinator-friendly campus. So we're painting a bunch of bee boxes, making the bee boxes, painting them, and then putting them around campus, which will hopefully, like I said, make UFC a bit more of a pollinator-friendly campus. It is a long-term project, but that's also been really great to be involved in. It's been a really good educational experience as well, to learn some ecology, outside of our classes, which we don't, as biomedical students, really cover a lot. So really great opportunity for that. And aside from that, I've been involved in 2 different research projects, one being more biomed focused, which is kind of what that picture on the bottom middle is referencing, and another that was more health and society focused. So it was good to get some interdisciplinary experience there. Right. So I think we can move on to the next slide now. We're going to be looking at the Rex challenge, and I'll let, I guess, Rex explain what that is.
You're muted. You'll need to restart it.
Start this over again. Sorry about that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Tharwa. So next to move on, for roundtable discussions, we have a few questions prepared that we will be answering during the discussion, but feel free to type any other questions you have in the chat as we go on. So just to get started, we want to do a poll to get a feel for what major everyone is in. So if you just want to type in the chat, A for biomedical sciences, B for bioinformatics, or C for health and society, we'd love to know what major you're in. I'm seeing quite a few health and societies, which is awesome. 1 bioinformatics, a few biomedical sciences students. Very nice, very nice. We have a nice mix today. Okay, awesome. Seems like we have a pretty good mix. So I think our advice will probably be useful to all of you. Okay, so now that we kind of have the poll out of the way and the Rex challenge out of the way, we're going to get into some of the roundtable discussion questions. So the first question on the list is, what are some of the differences and similarities between our majors? So HSOC, biomedical sciences, and bioinformatics are quite different majors, and there are a lot of similarities between them, and there are a lot of differences between them. But for bioinformatics specifically, I would say that there's a lot of interdisciplinary work involved that is useful for exploring different avenues of research and different areas of research, and I guess pursuing different careers as well. So for bioinformatics students, we actually do work quite closely with biomedical sciences students, but because a big part of our degree is computer science, we can also branch out into computer science and approach different problems from a computational perspective. So being in bioinformatics, since it is a smaller major within the BHSC program, not only do you have the chance to kind of work one-on-one with your professors and your teachers, but you also get the chance to develop new skills and kind of stand out in the program. So a lot of bioinformatics students in our program, they do computer science minors, or they do data science minors. And so those are unique skill sets that you can use not only in research, but also when you try to pursue a different career or work in industry after you graduate, which is really nice. And I think like a big part of being in BHSC in general too is that you do get to learn a lot from your peers. And so when you are in the BHSC program, you do get to gain perspectives, not only outside of BHSC by pursuing like different things like computer science or statistics, but you also get to learn from your own peers within the BHSC program, since everyone is very like-minded and they kind of have similar goals in that sense. And just to kind of like reiterate, bioinformatics kind of allows for different interdisciplinary work and is kind of like the intersection of like medicine and computer science. So another major at the university that in the BHSC program that involves like different aspects and kind of involves an intersection of different fields is health and society. So Carolyn, if you kind of want to talk about HSOC and some of the concentrations you can branch out into.
Yeah, so health and society, I would say, like bioinformatics, is also like highly interdisciplinary. Even though it focuses more on the social aspect of health, you can definitely use like a lot of aspects from the biomedical sciences and bioinformatics to approach health society problems. So health and society is unique in the sense that it allows you to look at health problems from an upstream approach. And what that really means is looking to solve the creator of the health problem rather than treating the symptoms of the health problem itself. So health and society, instead of potentially like treating the symptoms of, let's say, lung cancer in Black communities in Nova Scotia, health and society is going to look instead at why Black communities in Nova Scotia experience higher rates of lung cancer due to environmental racism. A unique part of the health and society program is that you do have to choose a social science concentration after your first year. So these concentrations, I'm going off the top of my head, sociology, political science, anthropology, community rehab and disability studies, geography, psychology. I know I'm forgetting at least one. I think I mentioned political science, but there is a plethora that you can choose from to focus your, it's really providing you a social science to focus your research on. And I'm going to talk about Health and Society 201 later, but HSOC 201, which is a course that you'll take during your first year, you do get a fairly comprehensive introduction into the ways that all of the different social sciences can be used as a lens through which to view health really, and health problems, health solutions. How do different social scientists really target health problems? And that's something you'll get to see. Additionally, during your three like concentration options during your first year, you will have some opportunity to kind of try on some of the different social sciences for size, for lack of a better phrase, to kind of see which one you like the most and which one you want to focus your work on for your degree. HSOC is also, we'll say it like a smaller, it's not as small as bioinformatics, granted, but it is definitely more, it's very community, like BHSC as a whole, it's a very small program. So it feels like a community, but HSOC specifically, we have pretty small HSOC specific courses. And that definitely provides a community-like feeling. You really do get to connect with other HSOCs in the program because of that. Again, I guess I'll reiterate that HSOC does have HSOC-specific courses that you do get to connect with other HSOCs through and just learn really about health and society as a perspective. So we have a health policy class, social determinants of health, etc. There's some upper year courses that are super interesting. As well, there are super unique HSOC research opportunities. really because of the breadth of health and society and how many different disciplines that you can use to target HSOC, there are really a highly extensive amount of research opportunities that you can target. I know people researching stuff from how climate impacts health, to how the neighborhood that you live in might impact education rates, which then later impacts your health. Researching, in my experience, community engaged learning, and in addition to that, Indigenous suicide. Like there's really a lot of different ways that you can go with research in HSOC, and that's why I think it's definitely an extremely unique opportunity to target a lot of very, very cool health perspectives. And I will pass it on to AJ to chat a little bit about Biomed.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, so for Biomed, I think in general, just with the courses Biomed students take, very similar to bioinformatics students. But overall, I feel like we've got a really comprehensive overview of the medical sciences. So you do, you go from cellular biology to, if you want to, physiology and anatomy. So going from the cell level to the whole system level is really interesting, and being able to make connections between there. It feels really rewarding when you can actually fully understand how everything works. It's a really, I don't know, interesting perspective to have on systems. That's definitely an expansion of, I think, what if many of you've taken high school biology, where things are more separated. It's kind of an interesting extension of that. And I think the part that I enjoy the most is being able to apply some of those things we learn in class to wet labs. And that's also, I think, really cool, at least towards the end of your, as you're getting to the end of your studies, being able to actually, understand what you're doing in a lab and why you're doing it and how it connects to your studies. I did find in first years, or in the first few years, it did feel a little disconnected. But when you can actually understand the applications, which does happen throughout, your time taking biomedical sciences, that's a really, really interesting process. Now, at the same time, as a biomed student, you get to learn a lot from students in other majors as well. And overall, I've also found that developing kind of a more holistic understanding of health science in general, it takes time, but it is very rewarding. So I guess to be a little more specific about the interdisciplinary aspect, that's something I really found valuable, especially someone who, when I was applying, I was kind of stuck between which major I wanted to take. Bioinformatics, health and society, or biomedical science. And you get a lot of opportunities to try a little bit of everything, especially in your first 2 years. So you have MedSci 203, which is again, one of the first classes you'll take, where they really emphasize the importance of being able to see health problems from all those 3 different perspectives. But also a class you'll take in your second year, you do get to learn, you have different modules on all 3 of those, all 3 of the streams. So you do get to learn a bit about everything, which I think is really cool and does set health science apart from some of the other programs offered at the university. And especially from a research point of view, I found that having, a bit of an understanding of bioinformatics on top of, the social side of health, social determinants of health, and my, biomedical science focus has, I guess, made me maybe a bit of a better researcher and also stand out a bit when looking for research opportunities, which has also been very, very valuable. So I think from there, yeah, we can lead into some of our experiences with first year classes.
Thank you, AJ and Carolyn, for your input. So getting into some of our different experiences, for bioinformatics specifically, we do get to do, especially in first year, one bioinformatics course, just as a quick introduction. And so that one bioinformatics course is called MedSci 201. So it's called, I think it's Applied Tools in Bioinformatics. And it kind of helped me understand the importance of bioinformatics and the applications of bioinformatics in the future of healthcare, so precision medicine. And it also kind of helped me determine that bioinformatics is the degree that I wanted to pursue and that I wanted to start creating a change in bioinformatics. So that was one thing within the BIM stream. Another huge component of some of the first year classes in bioinformatics is computer science. And so a lot of first year students, especially when coming into the program, they have a lot of anxiety around starting bioinformatics specifically because of that computer science component. And as an undergraduate student with no prior experience in computer science, I definitely was a little bit overwhelmed because it seemed like most of the other students in the computer science department had been coding for like quite a few years, or you could even say like from the room. I definitely thought that like the learning curve between starting university and like learning how to code and then becoming a bioinformatics student was quite a steep learning curve, but over time, through different support networks and starting to reach out to people and just keeping at it and keeping my head in the game, I was able to kind of push through my first year and learn how to code. And then beyond computer science, I feel like a lot of the other courses we do are just basic like science courses that you'll do with other biomedical sciences students, and you'll be introduced to the different foundational sciences individually. So that's kind of like my experience in bioinformatics. But Carolyn and AJ, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, for sure. So first year HSOC courses, the only first year HSOC course, HSOC specific course that's taken is HSOC 201. But this class is, I think, so important for health and society as a whole, just for providing a really comprehensive introduction to what health and society really is. So it gives you a really comprehensive introduction to upstream health approaches, really, I would say health and society as a whole, and the various social science perspectives that you can use to target health from an upstream approach. So in that class, each social science that you can concentrate in really is kind of gone through with a different module targeting a specific health issue. So in my class, it was homelessness. And it provides you just a really comprehensive introduction also to like the academia, the academic literature that you can kind of pursue to target these. We did a super interesting journal club. And it is also a great way to just connect with other HSOC students as a whole. Additionally, in your first year as an HSOC, you will have to take 3 major options. So these are options that are kind of the first year equivalents of some of the social sciences that you can choose to concentrate in. So again, these are like anthropology, community rehab and disability studies, economics, geography, political science, psych, and sociology. I think that's all of them. But in essence, you get to take 3 of these and kind of try them out. And I think that that's a super great opportunity to really almost like push yourself into trying some of the stuff that you think you might like, see how it goes. It also might introduce you to a social science concentration that you had never even thought about before, which is super awesome. And then I could just give a quick spiel on MedSci 203 and 205. I know that these are super intimidating courses for people, especially coming into BHSC. But really, they have set me up for the best academic writing of my life, really. And in comparison, I notice it in classes, especially my second year, when it's kind of this branch out into taking classes from other faculties. The writing experience that MedSci 203 and 205 gives you is really incomparable. Like, you are so well prepared to be successful in your academic writing, and even just your comprehension of academic literature is so significantly improved by these courses. You do get some exposure to the health sciences librarian and really learning like library skills and just basic literature search skills through that. And you'll also get a lot of experience with presentations and group work. So this is, I know, really scary for some people, but honestly, as AJ said, my group during MedSci 203 and my like preceptor group during MedSci 205 ended up actually being really strong support systems for me in my first year. And they were super helpful just to understand the health issue that we were targeting in MedSci 203. And this, again, has been super foundational for me moving forward into other courses, where I've noticed definitely a significant strength of mine is my presentation skills and my writing skills. Additionally, these, if you say, as AJ mentioned earlier, it may be hard to like make friends during orientation or whatever may happen, but these groups are also a great opportunity to connect with other people in Med Sci 203 and 205. I will pass it on to AJ to chat a bit about his first year classes.
Thank you. Yeah, so for Biomed, your first year classes are going to be pretty similar to your high school classes. So you will have Med Sci 203 and 205, which are specific to health sciences. But aside from that, you'll be doing physics, chemistry, biology, math, and English as well. And while like they are similar to high school content, they do go a bit beyond, but I still think they're a very, or they were a really good way to ease in a bit to university. So it wasn't too overwhelming all at once. The main difference I noticed was the structure of the classes is very different, and that's something you kind of have to learn. But it is nice to have some content that you are familiar with going into it. So it's not, you know, too wild of a change all at once. One thing I also found is, you know, if you took AP classes or IB classes, there might be some more similarity to the content you're seeing in your first year. But I do kind of want to emphasize that even if you didn't take, you know, AP or IB, you can still do perfectly fine in first year classes. You know, they are kind of, I guess, designed to put everyone on the same level, regardless of your background in high school. And I know that's something I was kind of nervous about going in. I took, you know, 1 or 2 APs, but not as much as other people had. And I was really worried that would set me behind, but that wasn't a problem at all. And again, first year classes are kind of designed to make sure that everyone ends up on the same level going forward. I guess one major thing that I learned with my first year classes was time management. Again, kind of going into the structure, how you manage your time in university is very different than high school. You know, you don't get work periods or anything anymore. You have lectures where you learn the content, you know, labs where you're just doing the lab, tutorials where you're doing, you know, maybe some group work. But aside from that, you are completely on your own to kind of balance the work you need to do, which again was an adjustment, but was, I think, something very valuable to learn in the first year. And not to, I guess, repeat what Carolyn said too much, but Med Sci 203 and 205, I do want to emphasize we're really, really good for learning scientific writing and reading. And while it might have been a bit frustrating at times during that learning process, and I think that frustration shared with a lot of first year students, it has been such an asset going forward, especially, you know, kind of like Carolyn said, when you go into classes with people who, you know, didn't get the same opportunity to learn those skills. So yeah, just want to emphasize, well, Med Sci 203, 205 are kind of difficult. They really do pay off in the long run. Yeah, so we going into another poll now. So yeah, we're just wondering what topics you are most interested in learning about during university. So if you just want to put that in the chat, I'll give you a few minutes to respond. Yeah, seeing a lot of different things actually, which is really interesting. So neurology and oncology, definitely get opportunities to learn about that in health science. Anatomy, definitely learn about that. You know, economics, health and society, medical science. It's nice to see a lot of people saying mostly everything too. It's good to be, I don't know, excited. excited to learn. It's nice to see. Yeah. All right, so now we're just going to go over some of the favorite courses we've taken in our degrees so far, some of which have probably covered some of what you have said you're interested in learning about. So I'll just start off. My favorite courses so far are MedSci 341, which was genetics, and then MedSci 351, which was cell and molecular biology. For genetics, it was a pretty difficult class. But I've always really enjoyed genetics, and especially I think there's kind of, especially when you get to the university level, there's a bit of a like puzzle solving component to it, which the tutorials for MedSci 341 gave us a lot of opportunities to apply what we learned in class and do like case studies and things with genetics, which is all really, really fun. And even though it was challenging, I think because it was challenging, it did end up being a really rewarding class, especially when you figure things out after being frustrated for a while. Another class I really enjoyed, MedSci 351, cell and molecular biology. Content-wise, the class was less difficult than genetics, but the main part I really liked about it was that kind of like MedSci 203, 205, it had a few really great essay assignments for learning how to understand and write about scientific literature. Again, maybe wasn't my favorite class while I was actually writing the essays, but in hindsight, now that I can kind of see what I took away from it and how that's helped me in my future classes, I'm really, really, I don't know, I guess kind of grateful I got the opportunity to learn to do some scientific writing in that class. Another fun thing about MedSci 351, you get to do kind of like a creative final project. Like we did an animation about any topic you want in cellular biology with a group. And again, that's a lot of work, but it's really fun. So yeah, I'll pass it on to Carolyn now to talk about some health and society courses.
Yeah, so this was very hard. So I feel like I've enjoyed a lot of the courses in my degree, but I just had to go with HSOC 201 just because it really solidified that I was in the right choosing health and society. I had Dr. Kayla Ramaj as a prof, and she was incredible. And I just think that it was just such a fascinating course. Learning about homelessness from all the different social science perspectives was really supportive in kind of my journey and understanding how I wanted to target different areas of research in my degree. I think that it provided extensive perspectives on how to target real world issues. The journal club assignment was one of the most fulfilling assignments of my degree, honestly. It just from like where we started to where we ended up at the end, the progress I think was really substantial. Hence why it is I'll say it's definitely up there. And then an honorable mention for me as well was Indigenous Languages 301.02, which is Cree. It's just fascinating. I loved that class. I really enjoy language learning. The community in that class was really, really tight knit. It was just super, super interesting. Really, that's my reason. And I have continued learning after that class, and was just really great. And I will pass it on to Noelle.
So I would have to say for myself, like some of the most challenging courses I've taken have been the most rewarding, solely because I felt so proud of myself for getting through them and learning for them, especially since I was passionate about them and since they were relevant to my degree. So for myself, I actually was able to narrow it down to one course, Medical Science 201, Applications in Bioinformatics. That was my first bioinformatics course that I took in first year. And that's been my favorite class so far, since it was my first bioinformatics course and is where I got to really meet with and interact with some of my fellow bioinformatics students. As well, the course taught me basic bioinformatics techniques and kind of sparked my passion for bioinformatics and creating change, not only in the program, but also in the field. So I was super passionate about that course, even though it was hard to handle since it was a block week course. And as a first year student, that can be quite intimidating since the movement of block week courses is quite fast paced. But I would say overall that course has been the most rewarding for me. And you do get to work with a really amazing professor who's also the director of bioinformatics, Dr. Anderson, which you will meet next year if you are in bioinformatics or if you're in health sciences. So now we'll move on to research.
Awesome. So now we're just going to do another poll. So feel free to just throw your letter answers in the chat. Have you ever had a research experience? So A, yes, B, no, C, no, but I want to try it out. And D, I don't even know what research is. All of these answers are equally valid. There's no correct answer. I think I was more on the D side when I first entered university, where I really had no idea what it meant to research, really. I had very little experience, but I did want to definitely try it out and get involved and see what was going on. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of C's, which is awesome. So yeah, no, but definitely want to try it out. You will get so many opportunities to try out research skills and experiences in the BHSC program. Whether it's just honing in research skills in courses, there's a ton of courses that provide individual research experience as well, to applying research experience outside of your coursework. So super awesome. Oh, and I guess I should mention on the note of the courses is you can take courses in which you lead research projects. And there's a ton of opportunities for that, but I won't get into that right now because it's not on course registration. Yeah, I'm seeing 1A, which is awesome. So yeah, so it's super, super neat to have some research experience coming in. That's awesome. But yeah, no worries if you haven't at all. And I think we're going to move on to the next slide to talk about research and our experiences. So to start with myself, so I didn't research after my first year, but I did start researching with the Office of Indigenous, Local, and Global Health at the Cummings School of Medicine in the summer after my second year, researching community engaged learning at medical schools in Canada. And then I continued that work into my research practicum to, excuse me, to study how to create ethical spaces when working with community members in community engaged learning through medical schools in Canada. I'm sure this is gibberish, but basically, how do we create learning programs that effectively promote reciprocal relationships between equity-seeking communities and medical schools? And then I'm additionally moving into, so I've done some in-course research on Indigenous suicide from both a national and international perspective. And I'm additionally moving into a research position to study it from, again, a national and more so local perspective this coming summer, and hoping to continue that work thesis-wise next year. And basically my experience has been so far a lot of, I included a photo of somebody, a clip art of somebody at a desk reading, because really that's been a lot of my work has been also virtual because of the pandemic. But additionally, in addition to that, I have been able to connect with a lot of really cool communities and community members through my work. But yeah, my experience so far has been a lot of literature review and just really seeking to understand the basis of the subject matter that I'm targeting. Yeah, that's been my experience. I've worked with some super, super awesome supervisors. I'll give a special shout out to Dr. Amy Gosvick for being so awesome, and Dr. Pam Roach, if anybody runs into them during their experience. And yeah, I guess if I was to give any advice on getting involved in research, I would say just reach out. Like, I wouldn't have found the opportunity that I had if I hadn't been actively looking for it, or looking for something. Like, I wasn't looking for it specifically. But really just, apply for stuff, reach out to supervisors. The worst answer you can get is no. So, and I will pass it on to Noelle.
So for myself, I was actually lucky enough to begin researching in high school, and I was able to continue that research throughout university. So for the past few years, I've been able to work in a bioinformatics lab at the Arnie Charbonneau Cancer Institute. And basically in the past summer, I was able to conduct a research project where I worked with different computational tools to identify transcription factors that are responsible for tumor cell invasion in glioblastoma patients. So I think for my research specifically, since it was more related to bioinformatics, there was that difficult computer science component of things again. And I think as a first year student, it's always quite intimidating to get involved in research. And as a bioinformatics researcher too, it was difficult to manage that computer science aspect of things. But you should always know that whatever obstacles you do face, whether it be in university or with research, it's always possible to get through those obstacles, and it's really rewarding when you do. And I know, like, as a first year, especially, like, research can be intimidating, and asking to like research with someone or reaching out to a PI can be intimidating, but don't feel afraid to do it. That's how you learn. You just kind of gotta toss your hat into the ring, ask for help whenever you need it, and that's really how you learn and progress through the BHSC program. So that's kind of my take on research, and I think I'll pass it off to AJ.
Sure. So yeah, I also did not have any research experience from high school, and I wasn't able to get involved in any projects in my first year. So I got involved in my first research project during my second year, and this was more of a health science focused project. So, or sorry, more of a health and society focused project. So it was on e-mental health tools for youth and young adults in Alberta. Again, while it wasn't all that related to exactly what I was studying with biomedical sciences, it was a really great opportunity to explore my interests in more health and society related topics. And I think a large part of the reason why I was able to get involved is because through some of the BHSC classes, I had some experience in health and society already. So yeah, even though that project wasn't completely related to what I was doing, in hindsight now, I can kind of see that it afforded me a lot of opportunities just for developing research skills in general, presenting research findings, writing about research findings. So that was all in all a really great opportunity. And then I guess towards the end of my summer before third year, I also got involved in some biomedical science, bioinformatics kind of research. So I guess similar to Noelle, over the past 1 year now, I've gotten exposure to and to practice with bioinformatics tools and some biomedical techniques to study brain cancers. So that's been a really great learning experience. And in about a month, I'll be starting my own summer research project on invasion and migration in a certain type of cancer cell. And I guess one kind of going back to the interdisciplinary part of health science, an interesting I guess note about that is I'll be working alongside another summer student. I'll be doing the more of the wet lab biomed stuff. They'll be doing pretty much the same project, but with more of a bioinformatics focus. So it'll be really interesting, I guess, see how that interdisciplinary work goes when it's actually applied. Yeah, so I think from there, we can probably move on to what we do outside of school.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ. So in the BHSC program, you do get the opportunity to get involved in quite a few activities that you're passionate about outside of just academia. So for myself personally, what I like to do outside of school is I like to volunteer. I like to sing and play instruments in my spare time. I actually do play quite a few instruments, and I've been singing for quite a few years now, so that's always been a hobby of mine. I also enjoy hanging out with my friends, learning more about bioinformatics, a little bit nerdy, but I do enjoy doing that. And I also like to throw in the occasional hike here and there. And on the left, you'll actually see a photo of me answering a phone call, because I also do that in my spare time. So I'll pass it on to Carolyn.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so outside of school, I can't say that I'm an extensive traveler, but I do enjoy it, so I did include it. So this is a picture of me hiking in the town of Salento in Colombia. I also really enjoy reading, so I do love to read. I love outdoor stuff, so I absolutely love hiking, camping. I love snowboarding, really just anything that gets me into the great outdoors. I really, really enjoy. I also enjoy volunteering. I love doing work with my nonprofit. The workshops I've been hosting have been very extremely fulfilling. And yeah, I enjoy learning more about really just any way that I can expand my knowledge of how to connect with the world and other people. So with that, I also do enjoy language learning. Yeah, and as I mentioned, just seeing new places. With that, I will pass it on to AJ.
Yeah, so outside of school, I guess as I kind of mentioned earlier, I do a lot of volunteer tutoring, which again is just something I find really rewarding. I also do some sustainability work, so that's the Beat Campus work. And I guess the nice thing about that is a lot of that involves just like building bee boxes or painting bee boxes, which is a very relaxing activity to do, which is really nice to break up, kind of the stress of school. Aside from that, though, something I've kind of picked up more over the pandemic was playing instruments. So I had a little bit of a background in like piano prior to the pandemic, but I really did. I think people who can play instruments are really like cool and they just like can do it. And I wanted to be one of those people too. So I did start to, kind of take it upon myself to learn a few instruments. So I've been in my free time playing guitar, piano, and ukulele a little bit over the pandemic, which has been a lot of fun. And then the last thing I do outside of school, or the main thing I do outside of school is I've gotten involved in some of the intramural sports at the UC. So in specific, I've been playing hockey with Active Living at the UC, which is just being active is really, I think, important, especially for stress management. And I've started that this year, and it's made a big difference. And I think my ability to manage stress, just that regular activity. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ and Carolyn. Let's move on to the impact of the pandemic. So being a first year student when the pandemic hit, it hit different. It was quite hard to adjust. I didn't have as much access to a support network immediately, but I did cope by doing new things and trying new things and following things that I'm passionate about. So when the pandemic did hit, I kind of worked out more. I went for walks, and I've already learned a few instruments, but I always wanted to learn how to play the alto saxophone. So I ended up picking up the alto saxophone and kind of starting to learn how to play that instrument, just like AJ tried to as well. And I think also I just tried not to burn out by talking to my friends and trying to stay connected as much as I can. But that's kind of my experience with the pandemic. I'll pass it on to you, Carolyn.
Yeah, so the pandemic was a really uncertain time period for myself. I think that for me, it really made it apparent that I needed to do more to prioritize self-care. So just getting out in the world more to manage stress, and just trying new things, really exploring new avenues and opportunities. So this is a picture of me hiking Mount Douglas in Victoria. Just doing a lot more hikes, just prioritizing things that I love, including outdoor activities and reading. I remember doing a lot of yoga like the first 8 months of the pandemic, just really trying to make sure that I was giving myself the space to prioritize self-care and balance between school and my extracurriculars and my life, really. So I will pass it on to AJ.
So I think one of the big impacts of the pandemic for me was that it did just make trying new things a lot easier. I'm someone who has a bit of a maybe harder time stepping out of my comfort zone for different things. So everything being virtual for a while did make it a lot easier to just try out new things. I think it felt like there were maybe lower stakes than actually having to commit to things in person. And I found that I've been able to kind of keep that momentum going as things have moved more in person. So, I'm kind of glad I got to start maybe in a more comfortable environment. But like I kind of mentioned earlier, just getting involved in new things with the U of C, new projects, new clubs, and trying out, again, for example, new instruments. It's just a lot of trying new things that's happened during the pandemic, which has been really great.
Awesome. So now we're going to move on to another question. So feel free to use the chat or raise your hand, use the raise hand function for unmuting your mic to tell us what is one topic you wish you could ask an upper year about, or yeah, if you had anything to ask about. Now is the opportunity. And we'll give everybody a few minutes to just think on that. But again, feel free to use the chat box to put questions. Okay, if nobody has any questions, I'll give about 20 seconds more. Okay, I do see one from Arshpreet. Reflecting back, if you could go back to your first year at uni, is there anything that you would change or add on? Personally, I can answer this first and then pass it on to Noelle and AJ if they have anything to add. Personally, if I could go back to my first year, I don't know if I would necessarily change anything because my experiences in my first year definitely allowed me to realize what I wanted to do later on more explicitly. Like it provided me a really great foundation, even though it was very hard. I think honestly, I would have been more patient with myself and provided myself a bit more grace. I think I thought that kind of first year was my be all end all, and if I did badly on one midterm, especially in like my first semester, that it would dictate my entire life, and I did badly on this, so I'm gonna do badly on everything, which is not true. Really, everybody's struggling with the transition to university, or most people are at least. I think that they're more grace to myself. I would add on more patience and more grace, and I wish I could go back and tell first year Carolyn that it's going to be okay, that you're going to figure it out, you'll find your niche place. AJ or Noelle, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think for myself personally, I kind of agree with you. Like, I feel like I was really hard on myself in first year too. And I think that first year is always a transitionary period from high school to undergrad. So you shouldn't be hard on yourself. But I think like a big reason why I felt that way was because I was feeling like imposter syndrome. So like I was always like comparing myself to other students, and I was like, oh, I don't think I'm doing as well as I could. Other people are not struggling as much as me, but everyone does face their challenges. They do face obstacles in first year, and you should know that it's okay, and you should give yourself time to kind of work through some of your weaknesses and figure out what your strengths are. And that's kind of what first year is all about, just trying to figure out what your place is in the program, what your goals are, and just kind of trying to develop the skills to progress. So yeah, don't be too hard on yourself, and you can get through it. I'll pass it on to AJ if there's anything to add.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna echo what both of you just said, but in first year I did have I still, to some extent do have, some imposter syndrome, especially, a lot of people in health science, are really like high achievers. So it is easy to feel like maybe you don't belong, or that you aren't, doing as well as your peers. But again, like Noelle said, everyone has their challenges, and you're in the program for a reason. So it's really easy to say, it's a lot harder to do, but try not to be, as hard on yourself, and try to keep things in perspective. I think keeping things in perspective is actually another note, kind of like Carolyn said, with a lot of things like grades wise. First year, I would do badly on like a lab quiz worth 0.25% of our final grade. And I would think my GPA was ruined and like it was the worst thing that could happen. And it had like no effect on anything. It was so unimportant. There was like no reason for me to waste any, I don't know, like mental energy being worried about that. And that, wasn't something I realized was such like a small thing until, I had a little more perspective. So I think if you can, kind of keep that in the back of your head, as you, start, it is something that's easier to learn from experience. But yeah, I think that's another thing to maybe go in with. Just there's very few things that'll happen in your first year that will be like the end of the world or the end of like your GPA, if anything. So
I concur with all comments. Moving on to the next question, Arisha asks, Medical Science 203 showed that it's off campus on the course schedule. Where is that and how far is it from main campus? It's in Theater 1 in the Health Sciences Center at Foothills campus, which is, I am a speed walker. So it's like 12-minute walk for me from main campus, but I think Google Maps shows it is closer to 20. So it depends on how fast you walk, how I tend to like really hike places, but you can make it in like 15 minutes if you go for it. But I'll put the address for the Health Sciences Center in the chat box. But you should plan, I would say, especially in your first semester, at least 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes to get from main campus to Foothills, just because the area, like walking, is a bit confusing if you don't know it inherently. And also, like, say in the winter, you don't want to be scrambling in the cold snow to try and get there in 15 minutes if it's wet, it's icy, or it's super, super hot. You don't want to be like pouring sweat walking in. Yeah, I like really when they give you like a travel time warning on Schedule Builder, I'd heed that warning is what I'll say. You won't make it in 10 minutes. Next question from Muskan. Is there ways to implement more sciences within health and society? I just find that I'm slightly stronger in that area. Yes. So health and society does have a bit more flexibility in the option courses that you can take. So you can definitely take more, like I'll say natural science courses if you want in your degree. So you will take Bio 241 and 243 in your first year. But you do have open options and the ability to take more hard science courses if you want, just based on the options that you have. Yeah, Arshpreet says, thank you. I feel like I will have the same notion of comparing myself to others as I transition to university. So I think this was a big help to see that everyone does feel this as well. Yes. Yeah, I think we'll move on to this in the we'll talk about this in the advice section, but something that even Noelle and AJ and I were talking about is like in your first year, like there are definitely going to be people that do a lot and talk about it a lot, and it can be very easy to compare yourself to them. I might actually let AJ comment on this because I think he said something about feeling behind that I don't want to incorrectly paraphrase.
Sure. Yeah, I think, especially what you said with, there are people, I think, especially in first year who, it does die down as you go through the years, but who, do a lot and talk about it a lot. And I know for me at first, I did have kind of a feeling that I was like behind everyone because of that. Because I hadn't, wasn't coming in with a bunch of research experience, or I didn't have a bunch of leadership experience. But I think, it is something that kind of comes more with time to realizing that, even if, you haven't achieved as much as someone else, go at your own pace. You're not behind anyone, and it's not, I guess, helpful to really compare yourself to, other people's maybe starting points in the program. Yeah, so I think that's all I have to say about that.
Awesome. Thank you, AJ. Moving on to a question from Kazi. Economics versus psychology, which one is hard? Will it be tough to study economics without a background / experience on it? I would say that they're both equally as hard. Like it's really kind of a myth that any of the major options are going to be easy. It's just you will find it's not as difficult if you're interested in it. So whichever one that you like more, that you feel like you'll put the passion into learning, will feel less difficult, most likely, or that challenge that you might experience will feel more worth it. It won't be as demoralizing, and demoralization can make a course just as difficult as, say, difficult content. So will it be tough to study economics without a background or experience on it? No, I wouldn't say so. I know a few people who've concentrated in economics without any economics background, and they have found a lot of success in it. Really, it's just about trying things. Like I can't tell you what's going to work for you. You really have to try it and see if it works for yourself. Like maybe psychology is going to be super, super difficult. Maybe economics is going to be super, super difficult for you. But it's about, like, I can't make that prediction. You have to try it out and see what works best for you. Question about open houses and campus tours. So Tharwat very kindly put a undergraduate tours link in the chat. And I think that, okay, I see a question here about changing majors, but I'm going to defer that to Jennifer to answer.
Thanks. We've admitted you to a particular major. If you want to apply to another major during the next application cycle, you're free to speak to me at some point in the fall. Also, I will mention with the talk about the 2 campuses and campus tours and everything, orientation in the fall, we're going to have you on Foothills campus for a full half day, and that's a great way to familiarize you with the area, mingle with senior students and get a feel for what it's like to travel between the 2 campuses. You'll travel over with your orientation group. So that's a great opportunity, and you'll get more information about that during the summer months.
Awesome, thank you. And we can move on to the next slide. Those are some awesome questions, everybody. And just moving on to us providing just a little bit of advice from our experience. So if I were to provide a small tidbit of advice, I feel like I have so much. I wish I could go back to first year me and tell her so many things. One thing though that I will say that might not get mentioned is get a hobby. Like, do literally anything that isn't related directly to school and volunteering and work. It's so important to carve out time for doing stuff that's unrelated to, say, like the grind or directly related to academics. It's a very easy way to burn out to not do so. You actually perform better. Like, if this is motivation to anybody, your productivity increases if you give yourself time to rest. So actually trying to grind out school all the time and only do like volunteering in school and work actually means that you're going to be less productive doing those things than if you took some time to rest, to give yourself space to have a hobby, and really try out new stuff. And on that note, it's okay to try stuff on for size in university. Like, there are so many different ways that you can tailor your university experience, whether it's your degree program, adding a minor, trying out clubs, all this stuff. It's okay to try stuff out and decide that you don't like it. Like, that's totally okay. I'm going to pass it on to Noelle to chat about her advice.
So I think my advice is pretty similar to kind of what I said before. So there will be difficult periods in university. And yeah, like I feel like as is with every degree, you are going to experience some amount of obstacles and you may feel imposter syndrome, but it's kind of important to focus on what you're doing and not compare yourself to other people. And I feel like that's like the best way that I kind of get through those situations now. And that's something that I wish I knew a bit more in first year. But I think overall, there's always something to look forward to with whatever degree you take. And especially in the BHSC program, you'll have a lot of experiences that there are to look forward to. And through those obstacles and those difficulties that you face in university, you'll gain a lot of experience. And I think that it'll end up being really rewarding for you. So that's the advice that I would give. And I'll pass it on to AJ.
So for me, what I found that I guess kind of like shocked me during first year, but that's been kind of a consistent theme throughout university, has been that the workload is very on and off. So while there's some weeks where you might not be doing much, there are others where it feels like you're doing everything at once, and it's very, very stressful, especially the first few times you experience those kinds of weeks. So I think for advice I would give, while those hard moments are a bit inevitable, I think it's important to know that it is just a moment. Like this too shall pass, and the hardest weeks are still only 7 days. So you'll have some really tough weeks, but you'll always be able to get through them.
Awesome. And I think we accidentally left the slide in from last year.
Yeah, move through this one. And move through this one. Thank you.
Awesome. So